platforms: Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Hey, YouTube and Facebook. Hey, IG. If you can hear my air conditioner vent, I apologize for that ahead of time because I get cold very quickly and I close the vent and now it's singing to me. So, excuse it if you can hear it. I hope that y'all are having an amazing day. Happy Feminine Success Friday, y'all. I'm having a great day. My husband is frying some fish. Hallelujah. And I just cooked some greens and some sweet potatoes. So that's what we're having for Sabbath dinner. Hope y'all are eating well and taking good care of yourselves. Um, you are right on time. Perfect, perfect. For those of you who do not know who I am, my name is Yaya Smith. I'm the founder of Feminine Success. I am a life coach, long time life coach. Professionally, I've been doing it for 8 years, but truly, I feel like I have been coaching since I could talk. And so I am a life coach. Um, I support women with specifically Black and Brown women with tapping into their feminine side and creating a brand of success for themselves. I don't mean like your business brand, but a brand of success for your life that feels authentic, that feels real, that feels aligned with your soul. Because I grew up around a lot of successful women. I grew up around a lot of women who were either successful on their own or they had married successful men. And what I realized in my observations as a child, this is why I say I've been coaching since I could talk, because these are the things that I was paying attention to as a child, was that money, accomplishment, achievement, while those things brought comfort, they did not bring peace and they didn't bring joy. And because I got to experience a side of life that looked beautiful on the surface, but when you got behind closed doors, it wasn't always peaceful. It wasn't always harmonious. But those people, those my aunts, mom, those people had nobody to talk to because in our community, when you experience success or create success for yourself, people feel like all of your problems don't matter. Like, how could you possibly complain about anything? And I realized that we are now in a time where success is within reach for so many more of us, but we are not feeling heard, seen, and valued in our real life. I know a lot of women and have worked with a lot of women who are CEOs, but they go home and their children don't know them. They don't have a relationship with their loved ones because they have pursued success in a masculine fashion that is very linear and doesn't hold space for their whole lives. And so what I developed is a ecosystem. I don't like to call it a program because really it is a full blown mastermind space where women get systems, they get strategy, they get support around creating a life, a successful life that holds space for all of who you are. It's time out for us, especially us dynamic Black and brown women. It's time out for us having to cut away pieces of ourselves, shrink parts of ourselves to fit into someone else's definition of success. And so, in Feminine Success and Feminine Success School, all of the Feminine Success master classes, that is the goal, is to support you with creating success in a holistic way. So that's who I am and that's what I do. Just had to let y'all know that. Hey, high fashion thrift. Listen, I'm so glad to see you here because I love your stuff. But that's who I am and that's what I do. I am a mom of four. I'm a homeschool mom. We are a home birth family. And so, whatever I talk about, trust me, I am talking from personal experience, talking from experience of someone that I have worked alongside or something that I have observed. Nothing is just coming out of thin air unless it's coming from the spirit. I do get a whole lot of downloads. So if you feel like I am looking in your window when I am on here talking. I promise you, I am not looking in your window. I was not tapping your phone line because I know y'all like to get on here and say, I was just saying this to my girlfriend the other day, and here you are talking about it. That's just the spirit showing you synchronicity. All right. So, with that, let's get into today's topic. Because my husband has actually been making a lot of content around men and women and having healthier relationships, doing his best to help men understand. But it's a journey, y'all. It's a journey to help men understand how to love us well. And I'm here to help us, how to love our men well, because a lot of times what we think is loving someone is really just filling our own holes and our own voids. And when they walk away, when they say they're not getting what they want, we're like, hold on, but I gave you my all. I ain't gonna go too deep for y'all today, but I do want to talk about in the relationship dynamic, in the dating dynamic, how I personally went from bad luck, as I call it, into a healthy marriage, a healthy relationship, a true friendship, and healing for myself. Because a lot of times when we look at our relationships, we are going into the relationship. We talked about last Friday when we talked about Ebony K. Williams and the bus driver. We're going into our relationships thinking, what can this person give me? What can this relationship give me? What will this relationship add to my life? Without always considering, does that person, does that relationship even have the capacity to receive you? Before you even consider the things that they may have that benefit you, do they have the capacity to receive you? All of the success that you've created, all of who you are as a woman. I know I have a lot of personality as a woman. And not to say my husband doesn't have a lot of personality, y'all, because y'all know he does. But but his personality is not the same as mine. And not all men can be with women with big goals, big dreams, big ambitions, big personality. Not all men can be with big, bright, shiny women. But almost all men assume that they can. Almost all men say things like, I want a queen. I talked about yesterday, I was actually in the DMs with a friend of mine yesterday, and we were talking about how so many men are showing that they don't want to be kings. They don't want to take on the responsibility of a kingdom. They don't want to take on the responsibility of a woman, children, and all of these other things, but they want their women to be a queen. But at the end of the day, if you don't want to be a king, you don't get the women that a king gets. You get the women that the station, the position that you are choosing to hold in your life, you get to play in that sandbox. You don't get to play in all sandboxes. And the same goes for women. But that's not what we're talking about today. We are talking about my personal story and how I personally went from bad luck to a healthy marriage, to a healthy relationship, to someone who is actually committed, not just committed to me, but committed to himself, actually has integrity, not just to me, but his integrity in his relationship with God. And most women, when you are saying that you desire a strong, intentional man, these are the things that you're saying you want. So before we even get any deeper into the conversation, I will preface this by saying I know that everyone's intentions for dating is not marriage. Not everyone's intention for dating is marriage. That's fine, but this is probably not the live for you, because that's kind of the direction that I'm going to go in the conversation. Not necessarily marriage, but healthy, long lasting relationship, where you are growing together and mutually bringing benefit. All right. So if that's not your desire for yourself, no judgment here. I get it. Hot girl summer, live your life, do your thing. However, don't waste your time if like that's not what you want. All right. But my story in a nutshell was that I was the girl who kept hoping that I would luck up and find my soulmate. I was the girl who, like, every relationship, I was like, this, let me see if this is the man I'm gonna marry. I think this is the one. I'm gonna marry him. And I mean, I was young. I was like 17, 18, 19, 20. All right. And what I realized was that I was not, at least for the most part, I was not running into terrible guys. I was not attracting men who were just not marriage material at all. But it just wasn't working. It just didn't fit. Whether it was circumstance that broke us up, it was distance that broke us up, whatever have you. It just was not sticking, even though I had this deep desire. And I will say, even at that age, I was never a just date for fun, be in relationships for fun kind of person. That was just not me. I don't think that's wrong or bad at all, especially in the society that we live in. But it wasn't me. But what I realized was that I could not force anything to fit. And sometimes we fall into this pattern when you're dating, when you're single, especially when you're older and you're dating and you're still single. This pattern of, well, this guy checks this thing, this thing, this thing. He might be missing a few things, but let me just see. Let me just try to make it work. Let me just hold on to this, because what if this is the last opportunity that I get? What's so wild is that even when we're young, we think like that, and then we're older and still thinking like that. And it's like, there's never a lack of opportunity out there. I'll just say that. But we end up putting ourselves in situations where we're trying to force things to fit. And when you're trying to force it to fit, you waste time. You end up getting hurt. Have you ever walked around in shoes that just don't fit? You don't even have to ask me how I know, because I know how you know. It's just not working. They may be beautiful shoes. They may be a wonderful designer, great quality, great craftsmanship, all the things. You found them on an amazing sale, all the things, but they just don't fit. And so when you wear them, when you force yourself to wear them, you deal with discomfort. You deal with feeling like, I should have just worn this other shoe anyways. And we often deal with that as women when our intuition says, I knew I shouldn't have told him yes. I knew I should have just waited. I knew I should have whatever, put it in there. But because it's not quite right. Now, does this mean that a person should be perfect, or that I was looking for someone who was perfect? I was not. But when my intuition told me this isn't really it, I still was like, oh my goodness, but maybe it is, but maybe I'm just tripping, but maybe I didn't hear what I thought I heard. Maybe I didn't see what I thought I saw. Maybe I'm just tripping. And I kept on that trajectory until I ended up in a relationship with a guy who I just knew I was going to marry. It was a 3.5 year relationship, and I ended up getting pregnant. And this is not the same for everybody, but for me, pregnancy woke me right up. And I realized I cannot spend the rest of my life with this person. It's not going to happen. But oftentimes what happens when we reach that point of enough is enough, when we're dating and dealing with these men as women, we say things like, I'm going to just step back and focus on me, and hopefully my man will come along, or hopefully my husband will come along, or hopefully whoever will come along, my perfect partner, or my soulmate will come along. However, that approach usually ends up in you being alone forever. This is not to say you should not step away. This is not to say you should not take time to yourself. But oftentimes, the mindset that we have going into that time alone is rooted in frustration, it's rooted in disappointment, and it's rooted in I am going to go and heal my wounds alone. These men are not worth it. Trying to find a relationship is not worth it. Dating is not worth it. It's not worth my time. I'm stepping back. I'm not dealing with it. And a lot of times, great things come during that time. You may travel, you may spend great time with yourself that maybe you weren't spending before. But what ends up happening, and I've seen this happen with women again and again, is you say, I'm going to take a year to myself, and it ends up being 5 years, and it ends up being 10 years. And you look up like, well, what is going on? What's happening? And so that what starts out as bad luck turns into a long-term space of not getting what you want. Because when you go into your alone time from this scarred place, the scar becomes the main character. The scar becomes the top priority. And when a person walks into your life or an opportunity shows up in your life, you will take the pain from that scar and use that to make a decision. And making decisions from a hurt or wounded place, all of your decisions are going to be around protecting yourself. Even if you've technically healed, the pain is still on the surface. What I realized was that when I took that time away, when I realized, you know what, I keep trying to force it to fit, it's not working. Now I have a baby. What? No, we're not doing this anymore. I was absolutely scarred because spending at that age, I was 21 and had been in a relationship with someone for almost 4 years. That seemed like forever to me at that time. That seemed like forever. But while I was scarred, I realized that the life that I saw for myself, the vision that I saw for myself, the love and relationship that I saw for myself was sacred. It was sacred. And I could not let this man who did not have the integrity, did not show up as who he said he was. It's like allowing your perpetrator, the person who hurts you, to have the power to determine whether you get to be loved again. And I knew I was not ready to give that up. I would never be ready to give that up. And that holding on to it was sacred. And so when I stepped away, instead of focusing on, I'm so scarred, I can't believe this guy did this to me, I said, this hurts really bad. And I know I do not want to feel this pain again. And I looked at all of the decisions that I had been making that led me to that point. All of the things that I believed that led me to that point. All of the times I told my intuition, oh, girl, you don't know what you're talking about, that led me to that point. And I decided that I was going to hold on to my desire for love, my desire for a relationship, my desire for a husband, not a boyfriend, not none of that other stuff. I knew that I wanted a husband. That was me. That might not be you, but that was me. That I was going to hold that as sacred. And that instead of saying my whole goal for this time that I'm spending with myself is to heal this scar that this other man left, that yes, the healing was important and that was something that I was going to be working on, but that my goal was to shift the mindset that had believed those things, was to shift the mindset that had allowed this person who I knew intuitively was not for me to hold space in my life for so long. That my intention for myself, I started to set powerful intentions. And I decided that my intention for myself was going to be to physically, tangibly, mentally, spiritually become who I needed to be the woman I saw myself as a wife, to be the woman that I saw myself as a mother. And that was going to be my full focus. And once I set that intention, I spent an entire year aligning my actions with those intentions. Because here's the thing, you hear people say all the time, I took some time away from dating, I took some time away to just be with myself, to work on myself, and this is what happened. Yes, I came out on the other side of that year engaged. The work worked. Yes, I came out on the other side of that year engaged, but I was engaged to someone I absolutely knew was my person. And I had such a grounded, connected relationship with myself by that time that my husband asked me to be his girlfriend, and I told him no. I told him no. When you're ready to build towards marriage, come back and I may still be available, but I am focused on what I told myself and God that I was going to come, what I was going to do. That's it. And what ended up happening is that as I took that time away, like I said, people will tell you you have to take time away to work on yourself, but they won't tell you what that work looks like. That work looked for me like what I listened to changed, who I was talking to changed, the kinds of conversations I was having about men changed, because I was, oh Lord, I don't know. I know I'm not the only person here who has been or is a single mom, but those first few months of single motherhood, I was 38 hot. I was hot, okay? I was mad. And so I had to take that time to learn a new conversation about men. I had to learn how to stop talking so much about the kinds of men I did not want to participate with. And I see that in the comments a lot. I be trying not to coach y'all in the comments. And I see that on your pages and your stories that yes, there is this desire for more upstanding men, more honorable men, more honest men, more men who just have integrity and who want more from you and for you than sex and a good time. Yes, that is the desire, but the conversation is about these podcast Negroes. The conversation is about these men who are saying why they don't like Black women and all these other things. Forget about them. Forget about them, because they don't want you and you don't want them. So don't let that enter your realm at all. So I spent that time really cleansing my life, cleansing myself from the inside out, cleansing my mind, even working through. And actually, I moved to Alabama with my grandmother at the time. I was in the red clay, y'all. I was in the sticks. Like when I say I took time away, I left the city and everything. I was just gone. You don't have to be that intense. but that's what I felt like I needed at the time. I am a Scorpio, by the way, y'all. So if I'm intense on these lives, just know Sun, Moon, and Mercury. we are all the way in the water over here. But I took that time away and I aligned everything with that intention. So when my husband, who I knew was a great guy, I had asked him to be my son's godfather. He was exactly the kind of man that I wanted to be my child's godfather. I wasn't looking at him as a husband at the time. But when he asked me to be together, even though he was perfect for me, I said no, because my intention was not aligned with what he was asking of me. And so when folks tell you take time away, be with yourself for a while, date yourself for a while, it's so important that you have guidance around that and what that actually looks like. Because what ends up happening a lot of times is that you get really, really comfortable being on your own, so much so that you don't even want anybody else. And that's fine if that's who you desire to be and how you desire to be. But if you are the woman who says, you know what, yeah, I do want a healthy relationship. I do want a positive and supportive and loving relationship, but I just don't want this foolishness that I've been dealing with. I don't want this foolishness that I'm seeing other women deal with. I don't want this new generation of dudes. If you're saying that, then more than likely you need a cleanse and a purge of your life so that you can see something else, because there's so much more available out here than what is happening on these podcasts, what is happening everywhere. What I realized during that time that helped me, because there is such a proliferation of really low quality men and women out there. So when you're a high quality woman and you're dating and you're coming into contact with these men who are like, who raised you? Who raised you, sir? When you are coming into contact with those men, you can feel like, is this all that's out here? But what really helped me was I was in my room one night, just frustrated. And I remember being in tears. Like, I was so frustrated. I had this brand new baby. Yeah, this guy, my friend, was there and he was supportive and he was helpful, but he was here in New Orleans and it was just kind of like, hey, I'm just trying to keep you company while you're out there in the sticks. Like, are you okay? What I realized was that I had believed similar things before. And I needed deeper clarity on what are my actual needs from a relationship. But also, what I realized was that even if there are millions and millions and millions of men who are not your person, you are the one for one. You are the one for one. So the millions of terrible ones are really not your concern, when your concern is aligning yourself with the one that you are the one for. That helped me. I hope it helped y'all, those of you who are here and maybe single, because I would be very discouraged if I were dating right now, seeing how these men are out here cutting up in food. Okay. But to understand, these men out here are not my concern. My concern is being aligned with the one, being on point and on resonance on the same frequency with the one who is the one for me. So all of my prayers, all of my, even small, I was very much on that, like, let me get 1% better every day. Look at my husband putting, thank you, husband. He's over there putting flowers on YouTube. But I was focused on being 1% better every day, and not 1% better at business or anything like that, because I wasn't a businesswoman at the time. 1% better for myself, 1% better as a woman, 1% better in how I kept my promises to myself. I knew I did not want to be the wife who lost myself in my marriage and just completely, I don't exist anymore. It's all about my husband and children. That's not who I wanted to be. That's still not who I am. Yes, I dedicate a lot of my life and time to them, but all of it ain't for them. And I knew I didn't want to be that way. So I started those habits before I even knew who my husband was going to be. During this year of intentional shifting is when those things came into be. I wanted my sleep schedule to be different. All of these things I knew that I desired for myself, I started working on at that time. And that's what, when you see Feminine Success School, that's what I developed during that time, was this, or not during that time, but after. After that time, I looked back on that year and said, well, what did I do to prepare myself to be a mom who is not lost in motherhood, to be a wife who's not lost in marriage, to be a woman who is consistent with taking care of myself, but also consistent with managing my home, also able to show up in my business, not perfect at all, but what did I do to be grounded and to be stable and able to carry it all without constantly being overwhelmed. And I turned that into a year-long program to walk women through that same transformation. And my husband is now here. He says I'm everywhere you are. Listen, sir. He's now here on Instagram giving those flowers are for y'all ladies. Okay. I got flowers over here on YouTube. And so the thing is, you can step back and focus on yourself, and that's fine, but make sure that you are not coming from a place where the scar is the priority, where the pain is the priority, and instead positioning yourself to make your vision, your true intention for yourself a priority. Because what ends up happening when you set an intention, hold on, got my Irayaje earrings on, y'all. I see her just popped in. When you make your vision, well, when you are dating and you have this intention to be married, you may have said to yourself, desire, you may have said to yourself, I'm going to be married by 25, I'm going to be married by 30, I'm going to be married by 35, and those things may not have happened just yet. A lot of times what ends up happening is you become scared to set that intention. When your desire isn't met, it can be scary to set an intention around it because we naturally want to protect ourselves from being disappointed. But what the difference is, when I had a desire to be married, I kept throwing men at the wall and hoping that they sticked. I kept throwing relationships at the wall and hoping that they sticked or stuck. When I set an intention to be a wife, when I set an intention to be a present wife, to be a present mother, to be a woman who did not, I was not, make sure y'all husbands aren't in the room for those of y'all that are married or boyfriends or whoever, because when I say this, it sets some men off, but it is what it is. I was not going to be clocking in at anybody's job and coming home to a boss too. I pick one. And I told my husband that you're going to have to pick one. I'm either going to work or I'm going to be married. I'm not doing both. That's because I don't do well with authority. I can't take that many people telling me what to do all the time. Okay. So that was kind of my intention for myself before I even had a husband, before I even had not a desire for a husband, but before I even knew who my husband would be. I was like, he has to be a man who is okay with his wife being at home, because I know what it takes to run a household successfully. I know what it takes to raise children successfully. I know how much of a weight a husband is. Husbands are wonderful and they pick you up and carry you and they do all kinds of wonderful things for you. You're an amazing husband. And also, and also, there's a reason why women get lost in marriage and lost in motherhood, because that's like a wave crashing over you. And if you don't know how to swim, or if you as a woman have not built a boat for yourself, you can quickly go under. Quickly go under. And so when I saw that, oh, okay, these steps that I took were really effective. These steps helped me to have a successful business. These steps helped me to be a mother successfully. These steps helped me to be a wife successfully with a husband who is very happy, like a very happy man. Like, he's not silly at all, but he is so at peace. And that brings me fulfillment and joy to see my children, my husband, myself, everybody just at peace in our homes. And so many of us desire that as women. That is what prompted me to say, okay, I see my sisters also want this, and I'm not going to leave them in the dark. Here's what I did. Here's how I did it. Here is the order that I did it in. That's why any class you take of mine, other than Dating with Discernment, because that's all about dating and relationships. Any class you take of mine, relationships are the last module, always. Because so often we want to put that first. We want to put that before we focus on ourselves. We put business before we focus on ourselves. I hear so many women say, yeah, I'm coming to work with you. I'm coming to work with you, but let me get my business in order first. Let me get my work in order. And then work ends up drowning you. The business ends up drowning you. In every program I create, you as a woman come first. We are going to talk about, even in dating with discernment, the first module is understanding you. And then we get into understanding others. We're always going to talk about you first, because intentionally putting yourself first is how you turn bad luck with men into powerful, healthy relationships. And I don't mean putting yourself first in an arrogant way, in a scarred way, because you can, trust me, those men, that's how, even when you put yourself first, you keep ending up with men who knock those walls down and end up love bombing you, end up icing you out, all these things, ghosting you. Because when you put yourself first from a place where the pain is the priority, you create this shield around yourself, this guard around yourself, where you tell yourself people cause pain. And so when you open your guard, when you open that door for a relationship to come in, you are subconsciously waiting for more pain to prove yourself right, that people cause pain. That's why it's so important to know how to pull back, how to spend that time with yourself, so that you are positioning yourself for what you actually want and not more of what you don't want. What I also learned during that time was that none of my time in those previous relationships were wasted. And my marriage has taught me that as well. None of that time was wasted. None of that experience was wasted. None of it. But I had to heal in such a way that I knew how to look at what I had in my hands, that I knew how to look at what had happened to my heart, that I knew how to look at men in a way that brought what I wanted out of them. I don't marry, obviously I couldn't. I don't marry every man I come across, but every man that I come across on a regular basis is helpful, considerate, supportive, period. And that goes for strangers in the street to men I've been friends with my whole life. That was not always that way. But I had to tap into myself first. I had to tap into the part of myself that went deeper than the pain anyone could cause me. And I had to bring that to the forefront. All right. And that is what shifted, not just mindset wise, but it actually shifted the results I was able to experience. That is why you see women come into feminine success and you see me sharing their testimonials that they got married in 80 days, or 86 days. Now that woman has been married for 5 years. That they are now in an aligned relationship after being super single, that they are seeing their relationships with their fathers change, their brothers change, even their mothers change, because we start with you. We start with you and how you show up and what you participate with. So, like I mentioned, I turned it into Feminine Success School. That is a year-long program. But if you're like, yeah, I don't have a year, I am ready to get it together right now, then I definitely recommend Dating with Discernment, which is a bundle of courses that I have taught inside of Feminine Success School that were specific to dating, that for once I have pulled them out of Feminine Success School and made them available to y'all. They will go back into behind the Feminine Success School wall soon. So if that is something that you desire for yourself and you are looking for a solid place to get guidance from someone who has actually created success and helped other women create success, and not just we getting married to get married kind of success. No, I don't go for that. I don't go for that. As a matter of fact, the woman who got married after 86 days, I wish she was on here because she would tell y'all when she got married. For a long time, I would not share her story. I was like, listen, because some women just be fallen into relationships and like will marry anybody just to say they got married. So if this is that, I don't want that to be attached to me because you didn't make that decision on me. But really, she chose really well. She attracted really quickly and she chose really well. What I realized is just from working with women, attraction is not normally y'all's problem. Yeah, most women do not have a problem attracting men. Most women have more of an issue choosing the right man and being confident in that choice. And that comes with knowing yourself, trusting yourself. So we build that first in dating with discernment. And then we build upon that. So if you don't have a year to give to Feminine Success School, that's fine. Dating with Discernment is available. It's at the link in my bio. And it is use code Date Smarter for $200 off right now. This is probably the cheapest that I've sold a course in at least 7 years. So make sure to grab it if that is something that you want for yourself. And if you do want the year-long experience of Feminine Success School, reach out to me via DM and we can get you started on that journey. That is obviously a bigger investment, but it is well worth it. I haven't had one person come through Feminine Success School in the last, it started in 2017. So that's been 5-6 years. I haven't had one person come through and say it wasn't worth the investment. That did not, some people didn't take a second year, but for the most part, my clients come back for a second year because it is a full coaching experience, a full support experience, especially for those of y'all who are like me, who are the coach amongst your friends, the therapist. A lot of my best clients are therapists who are the voice of reason for everybody in your family, but you always feel like, who do I go to? This is that for you. You need a you for you. All right. So I hope that this supported you and that you got something from this that helps you make a more powerful and intentional decision in your dating life. I don't talk about dating and relationships a lot because it's such a tough conversation, really. There's so much noise online around dating, relationships, who's high value, who's low value, just all these different things. And I like to work with more mature women. I like to work with women who are serious about what they want for themselves. They hear those dudes on the podcast and say, you know what? That don't have nothing to do with me. I don't even like those kind of men. And they move on. That's the kind of women that I like to work with. And a lot of times on these platforms, when you mention dating, when you mention relationships, people are automatically looking for like drama, cattiness, man versus woman, that whole thing. And I don't have that to give because I love men and women coming together. I love harmony among the masculine and feminine. And that's all I have to give. So outside of that, I digress. I am going to go ahead and rest. It's about to be Sabbath. I told these kids I was going to put them some cookies together before the sun go down. So y'all wish me luck. I hope this has supported you. If you are wanting dating with discernment, today is the last day to use the Date Smarter code. So go ahead and grab that. And if Feminine Success School sounds like a better option for you, it is. That's my baby, so I'm biased. I feel like it's the option for everybody. But if you feel like Feminine Success School is the better option for you and you're ready to step into a bigger investment in yourself, then that is available too. And you just reach out to me. I will obviously not be responding on the Sabbath because I am getting rest. But first thing Monday morning, I'll get back to you. All right. Peace and love, y'all. Have a beautiful weekend.